Hello, everyone. I'm here. I'm Mighty Slim, and I'm talking to the legendary drummer and outstanding vocalist, Mr. James Gadson. James, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, Slim. How they treating you, Slim?
Oh, good, man. Good.
Oh, that's all right. That's beautiful. Good for the. I'm glad to see you.
You're glad to be here. Tremendous. So, tell me about your early background. Did you start as a singer, or did you start as a drummer?
I was a doo-wopper. My father was a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't want me to play his drums. You know, he really didn't want me to be in the music business. So he bought me one of those cornets, those concert trumpets, as they call them. And you know, I played the marches and stuff in high school, but I had this tooth. I got a gold tooth. I had the tooth was out, so it was hard for me to play that trumpet. The teacher would say, "Well, bend your left hand and try to hit them notes." You know, it was all right. I during those days, it was the doo-wop era, and I was crazy about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Frankie Lavin came in and he just blew my mind out there. That was it for me, you know, because I thought I was going to be the first one because I was young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was about 14, 15. But I did do a couple of records on Federal label, the same label that James Brown was on,
Mm-hmm.
It was King Recordings. And he had Why Do You Do Me This Way out before Please, Please, Please,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And he hit Please, 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 and that was a hit. You know, my mother wouldn't let us go on the road, which I'm glad she didn't now, you know, because we were young, we were about 14, 15 years old.
What was it? What was the name of the group?
The Carpets.
The Carpets. Okay.
Yeah, Kansas City Carpets.
Nice.
Yeah.
So so how long did you stay with the Carpets as a singer? And
We were from about 14 to 17. You know, you know, it didn't happen. We in Kansas City for some reason or another. It just didn't happen for us, and my mother wouldn't let me go on the road, and so people got disenchanted,
Mm-hmm.
and I went into the Air Force, and I was in there for 4 years. I, you know, sang a little bit around the different. I was stationed in Korea,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and when I got back in the States, they stationed me down in Louisiana. And I did a little music down there, not that much. But that's where I learned, when I heard that funk from those drummers down there, that Louisiana funk, I heard that. I wasn't no drummer, but I heard it. I loved it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got out of the Air Force, my brother was a guitar. I didn't know it. He had learned how to play guitar at the time I was in it. And he had a working band. And so he let me join his band. I could play 3 or 4 chords on the piano, and I was the front man. I did some of the Little Richard stuff and all that stuff. That was, you know, at that time.
So you joined your brother's band as a singer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And what happened was the bass player left the group. He wanted to go with a famous jazz blues pianist out of Kansas City named J. McShann.
Sure, I know him. Yep.
And the drummer could play bass, and he wanted to be a bass player anyway. He didn't want to play the drums no more. So the drummer fell in my lap. My brother said, "Man, you can do it. Come on and do it." So I practiced and got it together, and you know, I worked with him, and I got interested in well, I mean, you know, we traveled and we went all over the country, but we didn't have no hit records, so it was pretty rough for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then his mother-in-law had a guy that she knew that was a manager, and he had us to go down south, and we had to act like we were at the time. It didn't make sense to me because it was dangerous. Otis Redding and William Bell at that time. See, Otis Redding was just starting out, and people some people didn't get to shoot in those clubs to run us out because they knew that we weren't you know, it was really dangerous, you know. So
sure,
that was very disenchanting. So my brother and them, the last place we landed was in Miami, Florida, and we worked a couple of the hotels, you know, and the Peppermint Lounge at that time. There was a big thing on the beach in Miami. That's the only place that black people could really work. I mean, we worked some private parties.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted to go back home, so they went back home. Miami was jumping at that time, so I wanted to stay. I got to see all the R&B stars there, and I saw Count Basie and Duke Ellington. I got to see everybody because Miami was it was happening, and so I got to see all these people. So I stayed down there, and I was hustling around town, a little rough, and a gig came through.
Hustling, playing drums for other groups, or?
Well, I was, when the people guys would go to work out on the beach, kept giving me the gig. Man, you would hold my gig for 3 nights a week.
Sure.
So it was good. They were very nice about that with me. They treated me pretty nice. And a gig came through with Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. He was the one that, a lot of people don't know, he was the one that started the Twist before Chubby Checker.
Of course, yeah.
So I got a gig with them, and we went to Nassau. That was my first gig. And it was kind of rough over there because they thought I had impregnated 3 women over there, so I couldn't go nowhere. I was, people was after me over there. I don't know why they thought it was me, but it was me.
Probably because you were a good-looking chap.
Well, I don't know, but it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
So we stayed in Nassau about 3 weeks, and then we started traveling, in the States. And Hank Ballard wanted to take me to Motown because he said he knew Barry Gordy, but I just couldn't hang because he told me he called it the Chitlin Circuit. Man, it was so rough. Like we'd be here in Los Angeles today, and had to be in Little Rock, Arkansas tomorrow driving, and they would make it just in time. And I was young at that time. And they'd be smoking weed, and man, I'm scared to death. They doing 120 miles an hour. And so they called me the Cobra because I would never sleep. I'm watching, I'm moving, I'm rolling every move they make, going up and down the highway. I'm young, so it's scary. So when we got close to Kansas City, I quit. Hank was very upset about that because he really liked me. He let me open the shows. I sang and opened the shows before they came out. And I worked a couple of gigs around Kansas City, Topeka, and others, but I just didn't want to deal with that. So I got into jazz. I happened to invest. My brother and them. I saw the B3. I heard the people playing the B3 organs, and I was amazed at that. And so I started to deal with that. And I happened to get a gig in the famous black nightclub in Kansas City. At that time, it was segregated. We had worked a few gigs with but we couldn't. You couldn't. You couldn't sit out there or order nothing at the bar or nothing. You had to sit back in the kitchen and all that. I had worked a few gigs like that, but this was the black nightclub. It was the top black nightclub in Kansas City. So I was very lucky to play with the organ players that come in there. And so I got my jazz chops up, I'm playing, and then I played some outside stuff around town and everything too.
Any notables you were playing with at the time?
Well, different people would come through there. Jimmy McGriff would come through there, and different people like that. And sit in, get to play with them. But some friends of mine, they had left Kansas City and came to California, the Curtis brothers. And I saw them on TV. They were on the Dean Martin show. They had came out, and they were some kind of way had got to where they were working all the casinos in Vegas and Florida and overseas too. And they called me to come out to California to work with them. I couldn't play their music. I couldn't play no R&B pop, none for So they had to let me go. And so I bummed around town. I got a gig with a guy from Kansas City named Chuck Rowan for about 8 months, and then the club closed or something that we were working for. But then I'd walk 75 blocks sometime to try to, get the jazz gigs. At that time, the jazz was pretty prominent. And Kansas said, "We don't know you. You." I said, "Man, get out, sit in. We don't know you." So I had came out here before with the organ trio, worked San Francisco and worked here, and I met a guy, famous drummer by the name of John Boudreaux. He was a very New Orleans drummer. He had moved here. He played on the Something You Got and a lot of stuff. And I met him, and we became friends. And he said, "Man, I'll get you a gig." So he got me a gig with Charles Wright. Charles Wright was a left-handed guitar player that played the Chinks on all the records. I didn't know nothing about the studio. I didn't know nothing about that.
Sure.
So he got me out, and Charles fired me about 5 times because I couldn't play no R&B, you know, and I had to get on the bus with my drummer. $12 a night, I was glad to get it. We were working at a strip club, and Thursday nights the strippers were off. But, you know, we got to work. So
was this in L.A. or something?
This was in L.A.
Okay, yep.
So he said, "Well, man, you want the gig?" I guess he couldn't get nobody else at that time. $12 an hour, you know. I said, "Yeah, I was glad to get anything I get." So he just had me to play 4s. He said, "Man, don't play none of that funny stuff. Just play 4s." You know, he didn't even like the 16th notes at that time. So I'm playing. This was the hardest thing in the world for me to do, just to play 4s. He didn't even want me to play no field.
On the hi-hat and snare?
Hi-hat, snare, and the bass drum.
Okay, yeah.
Because there was a lot of Motown had that type of thing going.
Sure.
And so he didn't want me to do any fields because I still, you know, I didn't have it together. I mean, I was think, but you know, I had my jazz thing was still, you know, prevalent. You know, and
sure.
So it took me about 8 months to finally settle into what was happening, and that was a blessing in disguise because I was able to create my own style, and I started easing the 16th notes in. He didn't like it very much, but when I did that song, Express Yourself,
sure,
it was all right then, you know. So it was cool. So I did that, and
one of the legendary grooves of all time.
Yeah,
yep.
I sang a song called Love Land. That was a big pop record. It was #2 pop, and I was one of the writers of it, and we had a disagreement. I didn't get any rights. We had a disagreement about that, and so and he got to where he told me, he said, "Well, man, anything you write, I gotta have half the writers and all the publishing." I said, "Oh man, I can't stay here. You know, I don't know what I'm gonna do." But I left. So I left. But meanwhile, at his house, I had met Bill Withers. I think he managed Bill Withers for maybe a week or 2 or something. And I met Bill Withers. Well, the trombone player in the group, in the Watts band, was also an arranger. He went to college and everything. And he was working with Bill Withers, getting him his songs and everything, unbeknownst to me. And so Ain't No Sunshine came out. We knew Bill, and, you know, that's a big record, you know.
Sure.
Then they released Grandma's Hand. I think it was a single, and it didn't do nothing, you know. It wasn't cool. But by that time, we started hooking up because Ray knew Bill. And Bill, I went on the road with him and played, you know, 3 or 4 gigs with him on the road. And Booker T had produced the first album, and Booker T had gotten busy with Willie Nelson. And so, you know, I think they wanted Booker T to produce the second album. We would, you know, by that time I'm on the road with Bill, you know, and we had came over, you know, I didn't even have the studio then. We were out there, you know, in the other room, we practicing and putting things together. And so we went on the road together, and I played. A lot of people thought I was playing Ain't No Sunshine, but I didn't. You know, I didn't record it. That was Al Jackson.
Oh, that was Al Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But you know, people thought it was me because they saw me in all these videos and everything.
Sure.
So we practicing. You know, we'd practice on the road. A lot of people didn't do it, and we still had to. Those days we had to carry our own instruments, and we didn't have no roadie.
Sure.
So you know, I'm experimenting.
Where would you be practicing, at the club or?
No, we'd practice at the hotel. We'd come outside the hotel and practice outside by the pool or wherever we could, you know.
Wherever you could set up, yep.
Yeah, and I started experimenting with different beats. And that Use Me thing, he heard that Use Me beat. And man, I didn't know he liked it like that. We came back to L.A., and Sussex had given him 3 hours of studio time, because he didn't have a producer, but they just gave him that because he was, you know, trying to do something. So my car, the battery was down on my car, and he come and got me. We did 110 miles an hour down La Cienega. They had the record plant was off of La Cienega and 3rd Street at that time, the famous studio where a lot of people recorded, a lot of famous people. And we did Use Me. I mean, at that time, it didn't have no name. I just played that rhythm.
Sure.
The bass player and I, and later on they put the clarinet on it, and then he made up the words and the melody.
Sure.
And bam! So we started practicing, and next thing you know, it's history. I mean, Use Me, Kissing My Love, Lean on Me. I mean, he's great writer.
Mm-hmm.
He was gone. He got big, and I think he wanted to make a change in the group because he told me one day, man, everything you do got them GD 16 notes in them. I'm thinking to myself, well, hey man, the 16 notes, they making the hits.
Sure.
But I think I better
propelling the groove.
I think I better move on because I'm feeling kind of funny about this.
Sure.
And we recorded some stuff, and he said, "Oh man, see," because he had at that time Sussex had closed down. We didn't get no royalties for all that. They beat us pretty bad, and I think he was going to CBS. I think he kind of hinted it. We didn't know too much about it, but I think he wanted to make a change. He wanted to use he didn't want to use the band.
Mm-hmm.
So I was blessed one day. I was over at the record plant, and this contractor saw me. James Gadson, man, we've been looking for you for 2 years over to Motown. Can you read music? I said, yeah. I was blind like a dog. And so, they started calling me for sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of, they bared with me. I think about the first 12 sessions was awful, I thought, because I couldn't read no music. But what I did was I got me some books, and I'd come home every day and study it. About 8 months, I got it together.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first session you did?
There was a hit. A lot of stuff I did was they probably had to throw away, but the first thing I did that I knew about was Do It Baby, the Miracles. Smokey had just left the Miracles.
Okay.
And Do It Baby, that was the first one, and that was a hit.
Do It Baby with Smokey? Yep.
Well, Smokey left by that time.
Okay, yeah.
But I did do that Cruising album with Smokey later on.
Okay, yeah.
And a lot of the Temptation stuff was a hit. I did a lot of stuff with them that was a hit. Diana Ross, that Love Hangover.
What did you do with the Temptations?
Man, so many things that was a hit. Yeah. I can't think of the albums.
In the 60s Temptations or the Norman Whitfield era? Or?
Yeah, Norman Whitfield.
Okay.
Was producing them.
Yeah.
And I didn't do any of the psychedelic stuff.
Yeah.
They had done that in Detroit, but they came back to doing the other stuff, and so
was what's his name?
Dennis Edwards at that time.
Yeah, was he the second?
David had left. I played on some records, on some. Norman Whitfield was still producing,
mm-hmm.
and he had produced a couple of things on David, and then I started doing some things with the Temptations.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I can't think of it, but it was a big album.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of albums was big, and I was working, quite a few things started. Jackson 5 stuff, and they were still at Motown. I did Dancing Machine.
Dancing Machine, one of the great groups. Yeah.
I just can't remember everything because we recorded almost every day.
Sure.
And we didn't know who the artists were, because they didn't have the name on the artists. A lot of the producers would take turns or whatever it was producing the artists. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know who a lot of the artists were.
Would they be singing live, or would you just be laying down the basic
We'd be laying
and...
down the tracks. I didn't ever see them.
Okay, yeah.
We never saw. I did never see anybody,
mm-hmm.
except when Marvin Gaye. And then I finally, I'm working in Motown, doing certain things, and the Marvin Gaye thing came up to the I Want You album, where he did I Want You, and that was a big album.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there for a minute, and so that was.
You were on Let's Get It On? Did you play drums on Let's Get It On?
No, that was Paul Humphreys.
Okay, yeah.
But I did I Want You, and that album was a big album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a lot of singles that came off of that. Yeah, I can't think of the name of a lot of them, but it was a big album.
Sure.
And I still doing a lot of other different things. Different people. Cheryl Lynn. What was that?
To Be Real.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
you remember anything about? Was the intro written out?
No, wasn't nothing written out.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we can't. We put that on. We glued that on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just did the groove. I mean, and the groove was the first take.
Yep.
And Shirley said, I could have done that. I didn't know what, that was awful,
Yep.
But then, we started doing those things. Ba-ba-da-da, ba-ba-da-ba, ba-ba-da-da, ba-ba.
You and the band created that and tagged it on at the end?
No, what was his name? The producer. He came up with that. Marty Page.
Okay, yep.
Marty Page was producing that. Maybe David, his son, I don't know, but Marty was in there giving all the orders.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Do you remember who the bass player on that session was?
David Shields.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we worked together a lot. We played on a lot of hit records, a lot of Bobby Womack stuff, and then I did a lot of stuff with Freddie Perrin, Peaches and Herb, the Silvers, Tavares, the lady from Hawaii, I can't think of her name. If I Can't Have You.
Yvonne Elliman.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, I've been so blessed. I mean, I'm just naming the ones that just come to my mind right now. I really can't think of a lot of things. I was blessed to play on. I played the soundtrack of Saturday Night Fever.
You were on. Were you on If I Can't Have You?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were on that, and you were on the. I know you were on the Tavares version of More Than a Woman, and
yeah, and then
was I Will Survive? I don't know if I Will Survive.
Must Be Missing an Angel. Yeah.
Yeah.
More Than a Woman. Yeah, a lot of. I just can't remember everything that I played on. So I got to play with. I started getting to play with a lot of different people. Ray Charles. Paul McCartney, Barbara Streisand. Just almost everybody during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed to, get to play with them.
Sure.
So it was. I was very happy, and I thought it was a blessing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I when I first went to Motown, they said, "Well, man, we don't really want you as a drummer. We want to produce you because that song Loveland, they had heard about that. It was #2 pop."
Mm-hmm.
And I had such a bad feeling with that between Charles and I that I just didn't even want to sing anymore because I figured the end of the world had came. I said, well, man, I won't never get another chance. I didn't know. And so I just didn't want to sing, so I concentrated on the drums.
Mm-hmm.
And so that seemed to pay off for me. I didn't do any more singing until about 15 years later. I started going to Japan, and I started singing on the CDs that we would make.
Mm-hmm.
With the people I'd be playing with in Japan.
Who did you go to Japan with?
It was David T. Walker,
Yep.
me, and then we had Japanese people. We had Cole Shimizu, who was the bass player, Jun Yamagishi, and Toro Tuzitsu was the keyboard player. So there was 3 Japanese and David T. and I. And it was called the Band of Pleasure.
Okay, yeah.
And we made some great records, and had a great time over there.
Mm.
So I did that, and my career subsided for a minute, and then it picked up again in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
and I started doing a lot of different people. I can't remember a lot of people, but it was a lot of people, and I got to play with a lot of people. Harry Styles lately. I did. So it's been blessed. A lot of the youngsters I've made. I played on a lot of their records.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't remember a lot of things.
Sure.
But after in the mid '90s, everything came back. I'm working for the guys, the producers' kids. They produce it.
Sure.
And so it mellowed out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But while the '80s, with nothing happening. I went to Japan, and that was about it. And in the 90s, it picked up again. I mean, during that time, it was B.B. King. I had done some stuff with him. And
Your work with B.B., Freddie, and Albert?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
B.B., Freddie, Albert.
How would you say to sort of compare your experiences with working with all three of those guys?
Well, Freddie King, he wasn't there when I played on the record, but I was able to work. I worked with him when I got out of the Air Force in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
He had headed out that
Hideaway.
Yeah, and so he was a hit record. So he came to Kansas City. It was 35. Well, I said, man, you make $35. We're gonna do this gig.
Mm-hmm.
So we played the gig with him, and we playing Frosty. I mean, what was the name of Hideaway?
Hideaway, yeah.
And the saxophone player took a solo, Bob, and Freddie King stopped the whole thing and said, hey, man, don't play my shit. Play your stuff. You know, he was playing, you know. But it was cool.
Yeah.
So I got to work with him. Albert, I worked with him in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was great. I always admired his, you know, blues thing. And B.B., I worked with him in the studios and did a movie when he was in. You know, so it was. I have been really blessed, man. From Paul McCartney to Barbra Streisand to B.B. King to, you know, it's been, you know, I mean, the Temptations, Gladys Knight, Diana Ross, the Supremes, the Four Tops. I mean, Smokey Robinson. I mean, man, a lot of people. I mean, I've been blessed.
Do you have a favorite session that you worked on, or you're most proud of?
I think I enjoyed all of them, but Bill Withers was probably the most creative of them, because when I started working for Motown, they had everything written out, and then eventually I was able to read it.
Sure.
Because I studied it. But you know, there was a lot of creation going on with Bill Withers, and that was really. I mean, all of them were good. You know, they all had their you know, things that I liked and things that, it wasn't too much of a dislike.
Sure.
You know, but that's about, you know, I mean, I played on a lot of records.
What
and I can't remember, huh?
Is there a record that you're on that people don't know you're on, that you go, I wish people knew I was on that one?
I don't know. I mean, they talking kind of crazy now. I did What a Beautiful World Would Be, IGY. Been it for the beautiful world.
Sure. Yep.
And then I'm saying, first somebody had in there that was, hey, Jeff McCarroll played on that one. He played on the album, but he didn't play on that one. I played on that one, and I played on Ruby Baby. He more my toms. We were good friends.
Sure.
And then I read lately that they talking about there was a drum machine. So I know better than that. But so you never know about how, you know. So, you know, things like that kind of bother you in a way of speaking. You know, you did that work. That was a #1 record.
Sure.
You know. And it was a very different kind of a session, because what happened was they had called me to do 2 weeks of work, and they decided they was not going to use me. They were going to use Jeff McCarroll. And that happens.
Right.
So I thought they would just pay me for a session, because at the time the union was strong. But they had me to come in. So I came in. I mean, they got a drum sound on me in 5 minutes. I said, they probably ain't going to use it, because they've known to, they might get it might take them a week to get the drum sound. I mean, they were so precise in the things that they did, you know, Steely Dan.
Sure.
And they put the music up. And they said, don't play no toms. Just play crashes. Hit real light crashes. And so I think I wasn't in there for but about an hour. They got a drum sound on me in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And by the time I got home, Jeff said, hey, man, can I use your toms? So I said, yeah, man, go ahead, you know. And I heard it. We came out. I think my name's on the record, you know. But it came, you know. Things like that. I don't remember. I mean, it might be some stuff that I have been blessed that I played on so many records that if I didn't get credit, and I don't like to take nobody else's credit. A lot of people call me. I remember a guy had on Facebook one time that Tavares, one of those records, that Gadson, yes, I said I had to correct him. That's not me. That was a friend of mine, Melvin Webb. He played on that. I can't think of the name of it. I would never take credit for, because that's a musician's life line, you know.
Sure.
And so you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So never had a love like this before. That was the name of it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and so things like that. If somebody says that something, I would never claim their work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. That's just not like it. And a lot of gold records that I didn't get, a lot and I found out later on you can buy them yourself. So
you had to buy the gold records in order for them to send you one.
Well, I mean, I haven't bought any yet, but I'm planning on buying some. I mean, I got a bunch of them. A lot of people gave them to me, but a lot of people didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have had a lot of them that I played on that I didn't get. So
Did you play on "I Will Survive"?
Yeah, I played on "I Will Survive."
Now,
I got a gold record for that.
Now, what would you say the you know what a pea soup beat is?
A what?
Pea soup.
Pea soup.
Yeah, that's the hi-hat going.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a story behind that.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, we were working on another song all day, and the record company was calling, changing the verse, and of course, and so this was the end of the day, and Freddie didn't want to pay. Freddie Perrin was the producer. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to pay any overtime. He said, "Hey man, just do this record. This I Will Survive." In fact, I tell you what, this play from letter A, I'll play the intro. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we played that. He said, "Thank you, gentlemen." 3 weeks later, it was gone. You never know about that.
Sure.
And he usually uses a click track.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have the click. We just played that because he figured that was going to be a B-side.
Yeah.
And it happened. Things like that happen sometimes.
Sure.
So that.
But that style of beat of the opening.
Is that what they call that?
Yeah,
the pea soup beat?
Pea soup.
I didn't know what they call it. I mean, mine is different. My hi-hat closes a little.
Yep.
Than a lot of other people's. Mine is a little different because I'm trying to listen to them. I couldn't play the way they played it, so I played it the way I played it, and it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Was
that developed over time, or?
Yeah, it came. It got probably more precise as time went by.
Okay.
Because I played a lot of disco stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Herbie Hancock stuff. I played a lot of stuff with him
on the Man-Child album.
Yeah.
Yep.
As we're talking, it comes back to me. I can't remember a lot of it.
Sure.
But it was. I look back on it, man. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
That was great times. I mean, that was before the drum machine.
Sure.
And then they got to Lynn 2.1. Come to find out they had my chip in it. Mm-hmm. The guy out there in the valley out there that fixes all the drum machines and everything. He came up. He said, "Man, I think that's you." So he came out. I was working at B.B. King's. He came out one night and said, to make sure, yeah, that was you. Come on by the shop. And sure enough, he showed me it was a chip. Mm-hmm. I don't know where they got my sound, mm-hmm. but they got my sound. But they got, I think they got
the sound of your cymbals or your hi-hat or the whole thing?
They got the whole kit.
Okay.
I got some chips who sound just like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the Lynn drum down there somewhere. I had to buy one, during that time because at one time they didn't want a record unless the drum machine was on it. Mm-hmm. It was strange like that in the R&B thing. They didn't want you had to have a drum machine on it, and then they had to have a DX7 on it up one time. I remember that.
Yeah, very 80s.
Yeah. So you had to purchase those things. So I purchased them because I had the studio here, and I was producing. I got a couple of records out of it. I had a group called Zoom that did fairly well. They had a couple of hits, mm-hmm. So that worked out pretty nice. for them, in a way of speaking, you know. So, you know, it's, hey man, I can't, you know, it's been beautiful. This console that I got here, I purchased it from Smokey Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
He had it. This was the Motown console that they used out here when they first came out.
Wow, yep.
And so I purchased that from him, and the 16-track machine. I think this is one of the first 16-track machines that they made.
Wow,
you know,
yeah.
And a 3M.
Mm-hmm.
A 3M machine, and the console is a Quad 8 Jensen, the guy that make the speakers.
Sure.
He made about 10 of these boards,
Mm-hmm.
about 10 of these consoles, and every one of them was the electronics in them was different, you know, because Art LeBeau had a board like this, a console. You know, you hear Art LeBeau, the radio announcer. I did a lot of Dyke and the Blazers stuff, you know.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he had a console like this, and I bought, after he had upgraded, he had bought another console. I bought some of the faders. They didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, Dean Jensen, he every one of these consoles he made, you know, electronic was different, but the API people copied from him.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's they tell me from that's how that happened. So, I mean, you know, for whatever it's worth, you know, that's what that is.
Tell me about working with Dyke and the Blazers. And
Oh, man, now, you know what? That's good you brought it up.
Yeah.
That was one of the first sessions that I done that worked. I mean, people would call me, because I didn't know anything about recording sessions when I got out here.
mm-hmm.
Kansas City was the country, in a way of speaking. So, Al McKay, a friend of mine, a guitar player,
Sure. Works with
he said, man, you want a session? I used to pass, and we'd be doing gigs, you know, passing each other, going to different gigs. And he said, you want a session? So he got me a session with Dyke and the Blazers. And the first thing we did was a record called Funky Walk.
I know it. Yep.
And it was a hit.
Yep.
And I didn't know it, you know. And that was when I was finally getting into playing the R&B stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been listening to James Brown. So I tried to simulate the record, you know.
Some of James guys.
I don't know if that was Jamo or whoever it was, but
Yep.
I tried to simulate that. But it came to be a hit.
You're talking about the Groove of Cold Sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so, Art LeBeau said, "Man, come on back. You know that we did fine already. I want to give you guys a production deal." Well, we were signed at Warner Brothers by then with the Watts Band, and Charles had threatened us. He said, "I'm gonna tell Warner Brothers on you." Warner Brothers wouldn't have cared. We didn't know though.
Yep.
We didn't know.
Yep.
So because we were just signed as artists, we wasn't signed as producers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was nothing in the contract that, you know, but we didn't know. So we kind of blew that. But we still made records for them. We let a woman be a woman and a man be a man.
Sure.
We got more soul.
Do you know the song "The Wobble"?
The Wobble, yeah.
Were you on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been very, you know. I was able to play me.
Right. Sure.
So that's really great. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to create a style within that. You know, coming from the jazz to the R&B, and I mean, I had to start all over again because I'm just playing this.
Right.
You know, so it's been great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't say, you know, if I look back on it, you know, it's, you know, it was cool. You know.
That's great. What would you say? You know, in the way, you know, like some of the stuff you were playing me before, has a really deep pocket and sort of the idea of really sort of laying back and playing behind the beat.
Well, they think I'm playing behind the beat, but I'm playing on the beat. It's just the way that I'm playing on the beat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not laying back. It's just the way that the music feels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's, you know, I learned how by me starting all over again and working with Charles Wright, because he was a studio musician. Then I'm learning how to, you know, play a pocket, because I didn't know nothing about no pocket.
Sure.
You know, so I mean, I was able to get through that experience. I was able to learn how to play a pocket, but he would never. He never would recommend me for no. I remember people would call him when we'd be up to his house rehearsing, calling looking for a drummer for a session. I'm broke as I can be.
Yeah.
Man, it's $25. He didn't say nothing. You know. So that's all right though. God bless him. But you know, what can you say? You know, I was able to get through.
Sure.
So it's been a blessing. Truthfully, a blessing.
Do you think a great feel like you have and will live on? You know, people will still be dancing to your grooves. You know, 50 years from now they'll still be dancing to your grooves. Do you think that feel can be taught? To have a good feel on the drums. Yep.
I think a feel can be taught. Everybody's not going to have the same feel.
Sure.
But if it can be taught. I have showed people how to come within themselves to be able to, it's a spiritual thing that if you're able to get into your instrument, not necessarily drums, is all kind of instruments. Where you can make people feel what you're doing.
Right.
If you get into your instrument good enough, then you can do that. It's a lot of people I've taught, and they've, and some people that wasn't the way they're thinking. They were thinking more mechanical.
Sure.
So it can. Sure.
You were able to break somebody who maybe has a more mechanical sense down.
Yeah, some of the young guys, a lot of the young guys that come out of college, there's 2 or 3 of them that I deal with, and by the music being so vast now, I can teach them, and they understand about getting a feel. They won't sound like me, but they'll be grooving, and they got a feel. You know what I'm saying? So that because of the music, at one time, I mean, the music was. I mean, people always bought all different kinds of music, but it was separated. Everybody didn't play the same kind of music. Sure. So now people playing everything. So they are eager to learn what I've played on. Sure. And so when they come here, most of them are able to learn. Some of them, I mean, just another thing. Some of them think a different way. Sure. Because it is a difference in playing a groove all the time and playing something else. It's a difference, just like playing jazz and R&B. Different. It's very different because that pocket is a little deeper. If you play an R&B, that pocket is a little deeper than, you can pocket and play some fields, but you can play only so much of a feel because you're in that pocket where if you're on top of it, a lot of times, and you can play a lot of different things, different splashes and whatever you do, licks as they call it. Right. It's a difference in laying in the pocket and playing. If you're playing fusion or something like it's all about that. It ain't all about the groove. Sure. And so it's a difference in it.
What would you say was the difference between a country shuffle and a blues shuffle? There is a sort of a feel difference. Well, in a country shuffle than maybe a blues shuffle.
It ain't that much.
Yep. But there's a little bit though.
Yeah, but it's all on what everybody's playing. Because the country stuff, man, feels. The country thing has got a feel to it too. I mean, a lot of the R&B guitar players, you can hear a lot of the licks that they got from the country guys. Sure. And so a lot of the feel, the feel is, hey man, they got a feel. It's just what patterns that they're playing might be different, and what patterns. I play country, the country music too. Of course now, a lot of the country music today is very pop orientated. Sure. But I had played a lot of the grassroots stuff. In Kansas City, I even learned how to yodel. When I was working on some, on some of the gigs, I learned how to yodel. But it's all according to what they're playing, and what pattern. Sure. Because man, a lot of those guys, Oh man, they can play. I mean, I remember back in when I was in Kansas City doing this, and it was segregated times. I mean, the country guys and the jazz guys and R&B guys, they would get together and jam sessions. After the gigs and stuff.
Sure.
They were always friendly. Everybody was always cool because everybody had listened to everybody.
Sure.
So they were listening. Everybody was listening. They would constantly listen to everybody. So it's really not that. It ain't really that much difference. It's just what they playing and what the tempo is and the groove. A double shuffle might. You might hear that too.
Yeah.
So it's. And then, of course, I grew up listening to, I listened to country music. In Kansas City, they had what they call a hit parade. And whatever was a hit,
sure,
that's what you heard.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you worked, you had to play everything that was on, in the radio. If it was a hit record, you had to play. People want to hear it. So
sure.
I learned how to, I respect all of it. It's all, music is music.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I played polkas, everything,
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make no difference. And it's all related.
Sure.
It's really all related. They talk about the drums from Africa, but the Vikings had drums too.
Mm-hmm.
The Norsemen, you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's all related. Even like a lot of the classical,
Mm-hmm.
you hear the church, and the church. They've gotten really where they've really, especially the gospel, the black gospel, they've really modernized what they're doing. It's really great.
Mm-hmm.
But you can hear the classical overtones. You can hear the way that the inversions that they're using.
Sure.
Because they were taught classical. So it's all related in a way. It's all related. It's all music.
I had a friend of mine that said it's basically a 12-note world,
That's right. Just like a lot of times they think the blues is in 12. The blues ain't in 4 a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. So it's all related.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get the feel? Can I make this country thing feel like, everybody's, either you can or either you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's all about.
Have you seen any changes in the way drums are recorded from the way the way you did it?
Yeah, because in the 70s, especially disco time, they took all the heads off. They had the heads off of the coms and the heads off of the kick drum,
Okay.
the snare stage thing, and they mic'd it like that.
So the heads from underneath the the toms and
the
stuff.
bottom heads, they took them all off.
Yep.
And now they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have I don't know if the miking was better or whatever it is, but they are able to. That's the way they do it now. They do it a little different. Of course, some sessions they'll ask me, "Hey, bring those drums." Those, when I did Paul McCartney,
what was the session?
And Beck.
What did you do with Paul McCartney?
I did an album with him. Something in the backyard or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Beck, I did a lot of stuff with Beck. He got the album of the year a couple of years ago, and I did Sea Changes with him.
Okay.
But they like those drums with the heads off of them.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, "Bring those."
Yep.
So I brought those.
Well, what would you say the sonic difference is with recording with a head and without a head? Yep.
Well,
I'm sure you're playing the same.
The tuning.
Mm-hmm.
The tuning is the tone. The tone is the drum with the head on it. It sounds like the drum. The drum without the head, it sounds like the drum, but it's a little dense.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a little more deeper, and a little darker. It's more darker.
Okay.
It's a little darker.
Sure.
So that's but it's kept saying, "Hey, bring those drums." So I'll bring those. So it's I got 2 sets of drums set up in there. To do 2 different sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
You're still doing sessions today?
Huh?
You're still doing sessions today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing too much while the COVID is here. I mean,
Sure.
I was very hurt because I have COPD and asthma.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of stuff I can't leave. I can't go. The doctor told me, he said, don't go nowhere.
Sure.
So I mean, I was, a lot of. I mean, I was called. I couldn't go to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to go there. I couldn't go out there to Rick Rubin's. They had some stuff out there for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Ray Vaughn, or what his name is?
Jimmy Vaughn.
Huh?
Jimmy Vaughn?
Not Jimmy Vaughn. Somebody else. He went on back to Nashville. Man, I can't think of his name.
Because obviously Stevie Ray Vaughn's been going.
No,
a long
it
time.
wasn't him. No,
Yep.
it was. It's a shame I can't think of it. But
Okay.
he tried to give me a chance, man. I waited 2 weeks, man. He called me and we want to do this, man. We want to do this because it was going to be a tribute to Bill Withers. He and they had the guy. They had some top artists that were going to do some different songs.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do that. I missed out on some. But I had your health is very important. I mean, at my age, I'm gone, especially with what I got,
Sure.
COPD and asthma.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I had to cancel out
Mm-hmm.
on that. I do, a few things here, because most of the time they want me to come there because they want to, they want to do it at their place.
Right. Do you get occasionally people sending you the tracks and having you play
Yeah,
over?
so I do that.
Yeah.
I get a few of that. I
Okay.
get a few of I could probably get more, but I never. I always like to. I like to play with people. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I do it every so often.
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't nothing like playing with somebody else because it's something that happens when you're playing with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
If once everybody starts tuning into one another,
Mm-hmm.
it's a spiritual something that happens. It don't happen if you by yourself a lot of times.
Sure.
So I really miss that.
Mm-hmm. What would you say the changes that you've seen in the world of drumming?
Well, I'll say
Maybe technically speaking, or groove wise, or
Well, I think it's. I mean, it's it's definitely. I mean, we have they call them church drummers. I mean, guys are playing a lot of technique now.
Yeah.
I think that's great. That's what they're doing. Everybody got their thing. I have no. I do mine.
Yeah.
I practice it, but I'm not. That's not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to do it, I could do it, but it wouldn't be because they do it every day.
Right. Sure.
I mean, so there's a lot of technical stuff going on, that they do. And so, I mean, sometimes they play too much, but hey, it is what it is. I mean, I can say that, but it might not be too much.
Sure. Are there any current drummers out there whose stuff you like?
I like all of them.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, all the young guys. I mean, I think that they're great, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they all, I mean, they all bringing it to the table. They all great. I don't want to call no names.
I got you, yeah.
But they all, and I mean, you got good, studied guys that know what they're doing, the young day out there. I think it's a great thing.
Do you think there's still a opportunity? Obviously, it wouldn't be like it was, but you think there's still an opportunity to be a session drummer?
Well,
obviously not to the degree that people like you were back in the day, but
well, they still do it. I mean, the younger guys are still doing sessions.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as much because when they brought the drum machine in, you can hear it. Like I saw the Soul Train Awards Sunday, and they had the drum machine. They had the band live, but they had the drum machine playing too. They had the drummer playing certain things, but they try to make like it. So I mean, of course they incorporate it, which is cool. But they, people are still doing. I think it's slowly coming back because the samples they get, people kind of want to be more human.
Sure.
And so I think it's slowly coming back, and then the engineering part of it is that gets better. I mean, we got, you know, I mean, we've came from analog to digital,
Yep.
but analog is still warmer.
Sure.
And then, you know, I've done sessions where they would cut on the tape, record on the tape, run it to Pro Tools, do what they had to do on Pro Tools, because you can do all different kinds of things that you can't do with the tape. Slow it down, speed it up, or cut it, or whatever, you know, however they do. Run it back to the tape and mix it.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, they, you know, it's, I think, you know, hey, evolution is evolution. You can't stop it. There's no need of saying, well, hey, such and such a thing is better, or this and another. It's what it is.
Sure.
And you got to get on the train and get on board, you know. And, I mean, of course, I mean, there are going to be records, and that's just the way it is. It's going to sound good that you heard a long time ago. It's just going to, you know, it's nothing that's going to top that, but that's just the way that it is. You know, so.
What in your opinion makes a good producer?
A good producer who knows the artist and knows his limitations.
Okay, yeah.
Or her limitations. You know, I've seen a lot of producers that were good producers in a way, but they wanted to put their thing on a lot of the artists that they were producing. And sometimes, most of the times, it don't work. You got to be able to bring out what they're about. You know, I've seen a lot of failures like that. You know, by them not exploring. You know, a good producer, he'll study the artist, and he'll know about the artist when he comes in.
And it'll play onto their level. So
because that's what it is.
Right.
That's who they are.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've seen them make records, and it might not be. I've made records that was a hit record, but it wasn't a person. It wasn't their thing. And they had a hit record, but they weren't happy with it, and it, you know, the next time it didn't happen. You know, so I think that, you know, you got to get who that is, and then you got some artists that the producer is the artist. He'll make up. I mean, and that's you know, so many things. He'll make up what he wants the artist to do, because artists, they really don't. It ain't that they don't have it, but they just susceptible to everything. He can use them to do what's in his mind.
Sure.
And they've had a lot of groups like that. I don't want to call them names.
Yep.
And that's been successful. And you know, I mean, without the producer, that's it. I mean, no, they can't go nowhere. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is. But hey, it's you know, what can you say? I mean, it's all about you know, why down something. You know, you know, because everything is what it is. You know, and we're steady musicians, singers and writers. And, you know, we're constantly learning. I mean, if you got to constantly learn, you got to kind of, you know, even if you don't like what's going on, you got to keep up with it so you'll know what's happening. You know, so if you're going to be in this business, unless you're going to say, well, hey, you know, I dug what was happening. I dug during the time I was doing what I was doing, and I hear the other people, and it ain't like it was when I was. Well, no, it ain't like it was when you. But it ain't like it was when Count Basie, or Duke Ellington, or Jimmy Luncford, or somebody was in.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, you know, if you're gonna be out there, then you got to get. You know, hey, you ain't gonna be the leader all the time.
Right.
So you got to be the follower too. And what did they say? A leader has to be a follower.
Sure.
So that's, you know, it's just, that's the way it is. And music is just, it's, you know, hey, it is what it is. And so I listen, and I like, you don't like everything. Nobody likes everything.
Sure.
But I check out what's going on, you know, and, you know, it is, you know, it is what it is, you know.
What keeps you going, and what would you say your overall sort of philosophy on life for you know, for living? Yep.
Huh?
If you had a general philosophy on life, or what keeps you going, you know, you've been doing it a long time, and And
try to stay happy.
Yep.
I mean, try to stay happy. I mean, I'm a Christian. I believe in God Almighty. I mean, I have been, man. I was into drugs at one time and everything, I got delivered. I can speak on that. I mean, couldn't nobody have done it but God. I didn't have to go to no treatment center or nothing.
Sure.
So I mean, I truly believe God Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ is my Savior.
Okay.
I believe that. So I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't. People do what they do.
Sure.
But I think happiness is the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just stay happy, and even if you're making music, try to stay happy.
Sure.
I mean, musicians. I mean, I've done sessions where I ain't gonna call no names, where some of the artists just they didn't want me there.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted somebody else.
Sure.
So it whatever I did was not acceptable. It hurt my feelings.
Sure.
And then I realized that, hey, you can't please everybody. And then, I mean, I'd be on the next session with somebody else that was on that session. They said, man, it wasn't you. This is what they like.
Right.
So, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get mad. I mean, I remember when I was doing commercials. I used to do commercials, and the lady said, hey, you got to do what you can't come from here a lot of times. I said, it can come from here, but you got to be able to share. If somebody, they might have a different take on how they want it. Mm-hmm. You got to deal with it like that. So you got, and music is like that. I mean, you got to share.
Sure.
I mean, we are blessed. The ones that have, the singers and the artists that have been successful, that are able to contribute to where it's so successful that they can do their thing all the time. That's a beautiful thing, because
sure.
it don't happen to everybody.
Right.
So I have been blessed to, I've been blessed to play on a lot of hit records.
Sure.
But I mean, I when I go into the studio, I always, hey, if it's something that I'm required that I wouldn't normally do, that if I can do it and that this is what you want me to do, that's because then you're coming to work with somebody.
Sure.
So that's the way I look at it. You got to be so that's the way I look at it. Of course, most of the time people call me for the thing that they want me to do, as they call it, your type of thing.
Sure.
But I have had situations where it was different.
I got you.
And I try to please them, and sometimes it don't work.
Yep.
And sometimes it does.
Sure.
So, so it is, I'm just glad that I was blessed to be able to contribute.
You definitely have, and
When I came out here, man, I thought I was too, man, I wanted to go back home a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
It was for about 5 years. It was pretty rough for me.
Sure.
Because it was a whole new thing, and I'm from Kansas City, and like I was paying $40 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, and it was $150 at the time I come out. I didn't understand that.
What kept you going through those times?
1960. My wife, she said, well, "Hey, we can make it." Because I came out here with a wife and a daughter.
Like Curtis said, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she said, we can make it. And so, I mean, I could have went back to Kansas City. And
sure.
The gentleman that I work for is very, he owns big barbecue places back there. Mm-hmm. He had his nightclub. I could have went back there and worked at this nightclub. He said, man, you can come on back.
Yeah.
And then probably later on, I'd have probably been working in the barbecue place, in the warehouse. You know what I'm saying? I could have probably done that. But I stayed.
We're glad you did, James.
I'm glad I did, So, it's a blessing, I mean, especially to come out and not be spoken for.
Sure.
Because a lot of times people will come out and they have things happening for them when they get here.
Right.
If necessary, the guys, I couldn't play their music.
Yep.
And it was a good thing because I did better than I would have done by being with them.
Sure.
So
it was truly a blessing. You can create your own.
Yeah, it was truly a blessing. Yeah. So, it's cool. We were all doo-wop singers together. Mm-hmm. And then they came out and they enhanced their thing as to where they had a Vegas act. When it was R&B pop stuff they was doing. Man, I couldn't play that. I'm playing straight ahead. You know?
Do you have a favorite doo-wop record of all time?
Oh man, I liked Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, the Drifters, the Clovers.
Yeah.
Oh man, man. I mean, so many. I was a doo-wopper, so I liked all of it. Was great that they were doing. You know, I mean, see, Marvin Gaye was a doo-wopper.
Did not know
so
that.
So you can hear certain overtones that when he was doing his thing.
Sure.
You know, he was able to, you know, you know, be successful. You know, and the guy that he was with, Harvey Fuqua, he was with, that was the Moonglows. That was another famous doo-wop group that I liked.
Yep.
And they had a different type of harmony. They sung a lot of major sixes, and major ninths and stuff, minor ninths rather. And so, I think he got a lot of training from Harvey. I think so. But anyway, he was able to. You could still hear the doo-wop when he was in his thing. So I mean, it was great for me because I still identified with that, and I guess a lot of other people did too.
Sure.
You know, so you know, what can you say? You know, you heard my stuff. You know, it don't sound like today's stuff. In a way, speaking.
I think the recording was outstanding, and I think it was fantastic, really great. The production, you planning on putting some of that stuff out, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it out.
Okay.
And so I mean, you know, that's me.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, you know, hopefully it works. If it does, cool. If it don't, somebody will like it.
Oh, I loved it. And I don't like everything. Like you said, that was
okay. Well, thank you so much. That's great.
The pocket was there. The vocals were tremendous. All the harmonies.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. People need to hear this stuff.
Yeah. So I'll put it out. So it's been a great ride. I have to say so. I really have to say so. It's been a great ride.
What advice in closing out here? What advice would you give to young and up and coming musicians?
Study your craft. Study your craft. I mean, I was able to, even though I didn't read music when I first come out here. I wish I had it. I had a chance to learn because when I went to school, I'd go out the back door and drink wine, and sing the doo-wop. So I mean, I went to a music class.
Sure.
Playing something, but you know, if you want, you got to study. You got to study your craft. And you got to study the business of music. Because that was a big problem for me. I didn't know anything about publishing.
Sure.
And so when the song that I wrote, I wrote a song for Robert Palmer. I mean, I didn't write it for him. I sung it myself. And the guy that I was working with at the time, he took the copyright. I didn't know it. So he got all the money. I mean, I think I got about $400. I think somebody sampled it one time.
Okay.
Or something.
This was a song that Robert Palmer sang? Or?
Yeah, it was, and I didn't know it for about 12 or 13.
You did the original version, and then the guy gave it to Robert Palmer to sing?
Yeah, and Robert Palmer picked it some kind of way. I didn't know it, and the guy came by and brought a magazine article. It's called "What Can You Bring Me?"
Okay, yeah.
Called "What Can You Bring Me?" Robert Palmer. The guy brought a magazine article over here and said Robert Palmer recorded it. I said, "Oh man, I didn't know it." And then the guy said, "Man, go online." I went on YouTube. And he's on there about 2 or 3 times. He's doing it live, and he's doing it by, doing it by the record.
Sure.
So that guy made a lot of money off of me, because he had a video too at that time. So, I didn't know anything. But I mean, I started learning, and that's when he told me, say, "Hey man, everything that you write, I got to have all the publishing and half the writers." Well, man, come on now, what?
Sure.
So,
How did you think your? I remember that you started out as a trumpet player. How did that affect your? I mean, you talked about switching, but your musical training on the trumpet. What would you say that would translate into your musicality?
I can hear horn parts in a way of speaking.
Okay.
But man, I mean, I was so I was so reckless when I went to school, and I was in such a doo-wop, and I go to class. I didn't even. I mean, and they teaching you about reading. So I went in the Air Force, and I couldn't even make the drum and bugle corps because they can't put up the music. I couldn't read it. So that was, that was a bad thing. So that's why I'm saying, up and coming artists, please learn everything that you can, the music business, and learn your craft. What I think helped me was because I had played all different kinds of music, and so I could feel what certain things were about, and so that's really what helped me. So I think you should learn your craft, learn the craft. I mean, a lot of times I see a lot of up and coming guys. YouTube is fantastic. Sure. And I see them learn off of YouTube certain things. I mean, I seen guys play technique out of this world. Sure. But they couldn't lay a pocket. Right. Well, then you can't work in the studio. You can't make no record if you can't keep time with somebody. Sure. Man. I mean, so I think, you learn your craft. So that's, I think in all, whatever you plan. Sure. Learn the craft. I think that's what it is,
All right, sounds good. Well, we'd like to thank you for your time, James. It was a real pleasure. And like I said, people, 50 years later, people will still be dancing to the grooves you laid down.
Oh, man, that's just...
I can guarantee you that, yeah.
Man, that is so, I mean, I don't, that's wonderful. Yeah. That's wonderful to be able to contribute that, and every time I go in the studio, I mean, I never go in there. I'm always, it's like going in the ring for the heavyweight. I'm in there, I'm serious about it. Sure. For everybody. I never take nothing for granted. And that's what I'll tell the youngsters. Don't take nothing for granted. Don't take nothing for granted.
All right. Sounds great, James. Thanks again, and we'll see you when the future gets here.
All right. Thank you.